fatigue and frustration. Joining us now, the always laughing Fox News radio host Alan Colmes, a proud Dem and Happy Hour regular.
It's called Democrats, a three-syllable word.
And Republican Congressman Darrell Issa, who has called for the Treasury Secretary to be fired. Welcome, both of you, to the show. Congressman, let's start off with you first. Boy, we had that huge rally yesterday. We didn't lose much of it today, even though the market's in the negative. So does this mean that you're wrong then? Treasury Secretary should not be fired?
Well, I'm so happy that we're only 2,000 points down from where Hank Paulson announced this plan originally. Look, I still have limited or no faith in Tim Geithner. He's still the person that was at the New York Fed and should have known more about AIG a long time ago. And the idea that he wants more power when, in fact, he didn't call the shot of AIG being insolvent, not before, not during, and not until after it became obvious that the money we put in wasn't enough.
Congressman, let's talk about this $165 million bonus. Is this just a smokescreen so that the Obama administration can pass through, I don't know, $2 or $3 trillion worth of bigger government?
Oh, absolutely. Look, people have contracts. The president, rightfully so, said after his party had overwhelmingly, actually unanimously, I believe, said that they were going to unconstitutionally strip these people of their bonuses, that in fact it was unconstitutional. And I appreciate the president's stance. The real challenge is, are the advisors around the president able to come up with a comprehensive plan that allows for the private sector to right itself? Right now, a 6% skin in the game from hedge venture people to buy these assets, to me, sounds exactly like what got us into this problem of no money down on a house. 6% is not enough to put skin to put in the game, but that's what this Geithner plan is proposing.
You know, Alan, the representative actually referred to something there. He talked about this breaking story, it seems, that the administration is asking for yet more power, supposedly for the administration and the Treasury to be able to extend the TARP concept to non-financial firms, except they're still calling it financial firms. And I just want to be clear, I actually did read the TARP package, and in it, with
a flashlight under the covers late at night.
Literally explicitly gives the Treasury Department already the right to determine any financial-related institution.
That concerns me. However, you got liberals like Paul Krugman, though, saying it's very possible that we may have to have a complete government takeover of the bank. So what we're doing is not really enough. I'm not sure if the congressman agrees that we need to do more than we're doing. You probably think we need to do less than we're doing, but it's not doing anything and having no regulation is what got us here in the first place.
Slope. How about that one, Congressman? How about the slippery slope?
There is a sweet spot between nothing and doing too much, and in fact, Congress will never reach it. But I do have confidence that FDIC and other regulatory organizations, if given an opportunity, can go in and figure out what banks are worth. And if we're going to do the same thing using the SEC or some other relatively independent organization, then I'll be for it. What I don't want to do is set up a new bureaucracy to try to do this in the middle of a crisis. We have institutions that did not do enough of their job. We need to make sure that we equip them to do it and then have transparency of what they're doing.
So, Congressman, you're saying then that if this power existed already, say under the FDIC, where it could also take over non-financial institutions like AIG, that we would have averted this whole bonus scandal, the $170 billion to AIG. The FDIC would have just gone in, taken it over, and dissolved this organization.
Well, certainly the FDIC, if they were allowed to regulate anyone who essentially guaranteed assets that when they went bad, bankrupted their banks, of course they would have been able to have a long arm over this. You know, one of the problems was that Freddie, Fannie, and AIG all represented part of the recklessness that led to the meltdown in these markets. Banks didn't do this on an isolated basis. As a matter of fact, many banks became insolvent because they were holding papers that they were told to hold by the government that became worth far less than their value.
I want to throw this to Alan. He makes a very, very good point. We have a Treasury Secretary right now who, number one, admitted that he may have made a mistake on his taxes. We now know that he did know about AIG bonuses prior to doling them out. And now, thirdly, if you watch that testimony on the Hill today, Michael Capuano asked him, aren't these, in fact, just the exact same instruments that got us in trouble in the first place and Geithner on the Hill.
You want to keep going after him for what we talked about when we were first appointed about his taxes. We're going back now 2 months.
Okay, forget it. How about the last one?
Let's talk about what the congressman said about regulation. I'm just curious, Congressman, wasn't it people like Phil Gramm and Republicans who wanted deregulation, who wanted less government? And now I hear you use the word regulation about we should have more government oversight, more FDI oversight, if only to be allowed to do it. Where were the regulators on Madoff? Where were the regulators all along here? And why are Republicans now all of a sudden using the R word when that wasn't their policy all along?
Well, Alan, you're absolutely right in many of things that you're alluding to. The fact is that people like Madoff found a loophole, just as Ponzi did a generation ago. What we need to do is we need to look and say what was not being regulated and regulate it if appropriate. And what was regulated but wasn't properly regulated, we need to fix those institutions, make them work.
Congressman?
Alan, just as you don't want to go back to the confirmation of Tim Geithner and his taxes, I think it's appropriate to realize that Republicans have not been in charge of Congress for more than 2 years, that we have been trying to do our job. We've admitted that we were not perfect while we were in charge, and we've been trying to be part of this.
Congressman, it comes back to every time, and we've just got 20 seconds. The regulations exist. The laws exist. They're already there. The last thing we need is more complicated pages added to the laws. Can't you guys just enforce what's already there?
You're absolutely right that more laws to replace laws that were not enforced will never be the answer, and that's why transparency and oversight is the answer. We need to be part of it. We need the IGs and other groups to be part of it. We need Alan Combs to admit that we're not under-regulated, enforced.
Well, what good are regulations if you don't enforce them? But Republicans didn't want regulations. Let the businesses do what they want. We don't need oversight. It should be voluntary. That's what we kept hearing during the Bush years.
The invisible hand.
Yeah, right.
And if you can tell the difference between Republicans and Democrats,
Alan, I challenge you to a duel any time on who did what, when, where. But let's do something right together.
Okay. We got it.
Thank you very much, Congressman Issa and Alan Combs. And we'll have that battle here on Happy Hour between the two.
They'll march it off.